Howdy. What is American culture? 250 anniversary reflection by Diogenes of America. 1. The argument we keep forgetting. What is American culture? That's the question underneath every fight we're having right now. Every border argument, every flag argument, every church and state argument, every argument about who belongs and who doesn't. Underneath all of it, the same question. What is American culture? And right now, two bad answers are being shouted loud enough to drown out the honest one. One side says America is a white Christian nation, that the culture was set at the founding, that anything since has been drift, dilution, replacement. The other side says culture is a construct, that there's nothing to defend, that borders are violence and roots are mythology. Both of them are wrong. Both of them are lying. Some out of fear, some out of theory, most out of not knowing enough history to know better. I want to try something harder. I want to tell you what I actually know. Not what I read on a feed. Not what a party told me to believe. What I know from records, from memory, from the land I was born on, from the people who raised me. So let me tell you where I'm standing when I ask that question. For 2, where I stand. My family has documented records in the Great Lakes going back to the 1590s. Let that land. The 1590s, 130 years before George Washington was born, 200 years before the first United States Census was ever taken. My people were here, governing, trading, remembering, belonging, not as myth, as fact. They were part of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, the Potawatomi, an alliance formed around 796 AD, nearly 1,000 years before the Republic. Keepers of faith, keepers of trade, keepers of the fire. And on the other side of my blood, Ellis Island, and immigrant stock. Moving through Canada into Michigan, Catholic, working class, Great Lakes, labor. People were told when they arrived that they weren't quite white enough, that their religion was suspect, that their accents were wrong. I have boarding school memory alive in my family, living relatives who were told to forget who they were, who were punished for speaking the language that had been spoken on this land for 1,000 years before anyone thought to build a country on it. I am both of these things, not as metaphor, as fact. I stand inside several American stories at once. And from where I stand, both of the loud answers look like lies. Part 3. Before America was America. Here's what the myth of the blank slate gets wrong. The land already had civilization before the word American existed. When the 1790 census was taken, the first count of the new republic, it recorded roughly 3.9 million citizens, mostly white, mostly enslaved Black Americans, counted as fractions of a person. What it did not count was the 350,000 members of the Three Fires Alliance. And that's just 3 large tribes of 33 bands. They were listed as Indians not taxed and set aside, removed from the ledger, made invisible in the official or origin story. But they were there. My family was there. The Council of Three Fires was there. Governing, trading, moving across the Great Lakes the way they had for 1,000 years. Founding is not the same thing as origin. Every American should understand that difference. The land didn't begin where the Republic was declared. The people didn't begin when they were counted. And the culture didn't begin when someone in Philadelphia decided to write it down. What the founders did was remarkable. I won't take that from them. But they built on ground that was already deep with memory. And the honest version of this country has to hold both truths, what was created and what was already there. Part 4. The melting pot was never clean. Now let me tell you about the other side of my blood. The Irish came and were called apes in the papers. The Italians came and were called criminals. The Catholics came and were called agents of a foreign pope. The Jews came and were called everything in the book. Whiteness was not a fixed category. It expanded slowly, grudgingly, violently, to absorb people who were first considered something other. The working class of the Great Lakes, the mill workers, the loggers, the dock hands, they built an identity out of labor, out of cold, out of shared ground, not out of blood purity, out of showing up together. And this same Michigan, the land my family has occupied for 4 centuries, was a corridor for freedom. The Underground Railroad ran north, through the logging camps, through routes that don't appear in most history books, through hidden passages that led to the lakes, to Canada, to something that might hold. Idlewild, a community carved out of the Michigan woods, Black Americans building self-determination with their own hands, on their own terms, in the middle of a country that told them they didn't belong. Same land that tried to erase my family also hid freedom seekers heading north. The contradictions don't cancel each other. They are the history. The melting pot was never clean. It was loud, and it was painful, and it was contested every step. But something happened in it, something real, something that wasn't there before. Part 5, the modern confusion. What we are doing right now is confusing several different things and calling the confusion culture. We are confusing race with culture. We are confusing religion with culture. We are confusing consumer identity with culture. We are confusing political tribe with culture. White Christian nationalism is not a culture. It is an anxiety. It is what happens when people who were told they were the default start to realize the country is larger than they imagined and respond with fear instead of curiosity. The old America they are defending never existed as they remember it. It existed as a story told to a particular group about their particular centrality. And the algorithms are making it worse. Every feed narrows. Every platform rewards outrage over memory. Every scroll replaces the slow accumulation of knowing with the fast hit of belonging to a side. We're losing something real in this. Local identity, civic trust, the ability to sit in a room with someone who disagrees and still believe we are something and sharing something worth arguing about. Here's what the founders actually built. They rejected a state religion deliberately, explicitly, after long argument. Religious liberty was the framework, not religious dominance. The First Amendment does not say Christian nation. It says Congress shall not make a law respecting an establishment of religion. That's not revisionism. That's the text. America was never strongest when it demanded sameness. It was strongest when wildly different people still believed the experiment was worth continuing. Part 6, the lamp and the noise. Diogenes carried a lamp in daylight. People asked him why. He said he was looking for an honest man. I carry my lamp, the cell phone, into this noise, not to win an argument, but to find something real. American culture is not racial purity. It is not religious domination. It is not a brand. It is not a flag worn as costume. It is not a feed. It is not a faction. American culture is argument. It is survival. It is migration. It is memory. It is labor. It is reinvention. It is contradiction held in tension by people stubborn enough to keep holding it. It is the boarding school survivor and the Ellis Island immigrant and the freedom seeker moving north through the pines, all somehow building something together. Not because they agreed, but because they shared the same ground and eventually had to face each other. It is my grandmother's language, surviving the people who tried to silence it. It is my grandfather crossing an ocean, something he couldn't name, but couldn't stop moving toward. It is imperfect, and it is contested, and it is ours. Maybe the strength of America was never that we became one thing. Maybe it's that generation after generation, against all odds, we kept choosing to share the same fire. 250 years. That's how long we've been arguing. That's how long we've been us. Don't let anyone reduce that to a myth small enough to fit in a slogan. The lamp is still lit. The search is still on us. Faith, family, forward, always. Diogenes of America, Memorial Day weekend, 2026, year 250 of the American experiment. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Considering hit like, subscribe, and share. The great modern American cynic, Diogenes the dog, out.